This is part 6 of Entity Framework tutorial. In this video, we'll discuss how to seed database with test data using Entity Framework. This is continuation to part 5, so please watch part 5 before proceeding. So far in this video series, we have been manually populating the database with test data using the insert SQL script. But Entity Framework can automate this for us. Let's look at the steps that are involved. We will be modifying the example that we worked with in the previous session, so please watch part 5 before proceeding. So the first step here is to add a class file, and let's call it EmployeeDBContextSeeder.cs. The reason why I have chosen this name is because we're going to make use of this class to seed the employee database with some test data. So let's flip to Visual Studio, and then to this existing project, let's go ahead and add a class file, and let's call it EmployeeDBContextSeeder.cs. And we are going to make this class inherit from a different class called DropCreateDatabaseIfModelChanges. If you recollect from the previous session, within the global.asx file, within this application underscore start event handler method, notice that we are passing an instance of DropCreateDatabaseIfModelChanges to this set initializer method. Okay, so we're going to make our EmployeeDBContextSeeder class inherit from that base class. Okay, DropCreateDatabaseIfModelChanges, and this class is present in a different namespace, that is System.Data.Entity, which is our entity framework namespace. So let's go ahead and bring that in, and notice that to this class we are specifying our DB context type, which is EmployeeDBContext. So within this class, within our EmployeeDBContextSeeder class, we need to override a method that is present in DropCreateDatabaseIfModelChanges. And the easiest way to get to that method is by typing the override keyword, and then once we press spacebar, then it's going to show us all the available methods that we can override. And the seed method belongs to DropCreateDatabaseIfModelChanges, so that's what we want to override. So let's select that, and look at this. To the seed method, what we are getting in as a parameter, it's an instance of EmployeeDBContext class. Okay, that's what we have created in the previous session, and we are passing that context object to the seed method of the base class. So I'm going to leave that there. So here we need to write logic to populate the EmployeeDB with some test data. So basically what I'm going to do here is create a department object, and if you look at department object, it has got 3 properties basically, actually 4. So let's call it department1. So these are the properties: ID, name, location, employees. Now we don't have to specify an ID for the department because we are going to insert a new department, and the ID is an identity column, so we don't have to supply a value for that. That will be automatically computed by the database. So it's enough if we just specify name, location, and employees. Okay. To speed things up, I have already typed the required code. So if you look at the seed method here, we have one department there. So we are specifying name as IT, location as New York, and then employees, it's going to be a list of employees, so we are creating a new list of employee objects there. And then at the moment this list contains one employee, first name, last name, gender, salary, and job title. And the interesting thing to notice here is that we are not specifying the department ID of the employee object. Okay, that is going to be automatically computed by Entity Framework for us. So what's going to happen is Entity Framework will insert the department, and then it's going to retrieve that department ID, the auto-generated identity value for the department row, and then use that value as the department ID property value for the employee object that it's going to insert. We don't know about the department ID, so we can't really tell that at this point of the time. So Entity Framework will take care of that for us. Okay, we don't have to populate that property here. Okay, so here I've just shown you, an example of inserting one department and one employee within that department. Okay, and then notice what we are doing with the department. We are passing it to the add method of the departments object, and we are invoking that on the context object. And what is that context? It's nothing but an instance of our EmployeeDBContext. And then we are basically passing that context object to the seed method of the base class, which will take care of adding it to the database. Okay, and to speed things up, as I told you, I have already typed this. So here I have 3 departments. So let's copy and paste this code right here. And it's again very straightforward. It looks lengthy, but then it's a straightforward code. Notice that here we are creating an instance of the department, specifying name, location, and then we have got employees here. And that employees is a list of employees. So this is the first employee, Mark, Ben, and then John. Okay, we got 3 employees there. That is department 1. Similarly, we have got department 2 and then department 3. Department 3 has got 2 employees. Department 2 also has 2 employees. And then finally what we are doing, we are adding that department 1 to the department's collection property of the context object. And the same is the case with department 2 and 3. And then finally we are passing that context object to the seed method of the base class. Okay, so that's the first step. Add a class file, EmployeeDBContextSeeder, and then override the seed method. The next step is within the global.asax file. Okay, so within the application_start method, instead of passing in a new instance of DropCreateDatabaseIfModelChanges class, we are going to pass a new instance of our EmployeeDBContextSeeder class. So let's copy that and pass a new instance here. That's it. Now what I'm going to do is, if you look at the database tables here, notice that at the moment departments table is called as departments, but employees table is called as TBL employees. And that's because, if you recollect again from the previous session, we have used this table attribute to change the name of the table within the database to TBL employees. So let's actually get rid of that. So now the model is actually changing because we have removed that table attribute. I'm also going to remove this column attribute. We wanted first name to be first_name, as the column name within the database. So that's why we have used this column attribute. But I'm going to get rid of that so that the first name column will be generated as first name without an underscore. Okay, so let's build the solution, and then let's view this web form in a browser window. So what should happen? It should drop this sample database, and obviously it should recreate the sample database, departments, and employees tables. And notice that at the moment it's called TBL employees, but after it drops and recreates it, it should be called as employees. So it's still trying to drop and recreate the table. I guess we are going to get a runtime error because of the fact that this database is in use. So let's close SQL Server Management Studio so that the connection is lost. Now it has actually created that database, and just to prove that, let's open SQL Server Management Studio, connect, and then let's look at the sample database. So notice that it's called as departments employees. Let's right click on this one. Let's say select top 1000 rows. So we have got those 3 departments, and let's look at our employees, and we have got those employees as well. And look at the department IDs. There are 3 employees in IT department, which is department ID 1, 2 employees in the HR, and 2 employees in the payroll department. Okay, all right. That's it for today. Thank you for listening. Have a great day.